Okay, let's have a quick discussion about the correct way to open Archicad at TAFE. We've discussed at the beginning of every lesson that it's best to open Archicad via the shortcut that is on your desktop on your student computers. The reason for this is because the work environment that is used on the computers at TAFE, I'll just click this, is different to the work environment that I like to teach with. The work environment that I prefer is the standard work environment, which has the toolbox on the left, okay, and which is on this side, the navigator on the right, and the information box running along the top. But what you may notice that on your computer is that when you open Archicad, not via the start menu and not via the shortcut, when you just double click the file itself, the work environment looks different to what we normally use, and that difference is mostly the icons that run along the top. So there's many small square icons that run along the top of the screen, which represent the different toolbox elements, such as a column which has like a upright stick or a slab, so forth. I don't like using those icons in that particular work environment because it's very difficult at the beginning to get used to what each of those icons mean. Okay, but later on, when you become more familiar with the Archicad icons and what graphic icons represent what, then you may prefer to use that particular work environment because it gives you a bigger area on your grid space to work with. Okay, so we've discussed that when you open Archicad via the shortcut key or the start menu, this window will come up. What we see here, it says, what would you like to do? Setting up project settings and set up the work environment. The work environment that I'm talking about is this work environment that I like to use, the standard profile. But if you aren't going to set the standard profile at this stage and you just let it go to the last profile used, then what will most likely happen is that you'll inherit the work environment from the person who used your computer last, say it was yesterday or earlier today. Then likely the work environment is those icons that run along the top, those many square icons that run along the top, and looks different to the standard profile. Okay, so the typical steps when you open a project, if you already have one that you've been working with, then you open a project and then you have to browse for the solo project. Just make sure that we change the standard profile now, and then you hit browse. It will automatically bring up your documents or your C drive to allow you to choose where your file is saved. So your file may be saved, well, my file is saved in this folder, which is the DA1's Camtasia file, which is the file that I'm using to record these videos for you. And this is the project that I'm working with so far. Okay, so the Glebe project Camtasia version 2 is what I've been using to record the videos for you so far. And what I discussed on video 1 was that at that stage I only had Archicad version 14, but I've since upgraded to version 15. But as I mentioned also earlier, there's no great functionality difference between version 14 and version 15 so far. Okay, so I'm going to select this Camtasia project. Notice how there seems to be a duplicate for each different file name. So I've got Camtasia project Glebe project Camtasia version 2. And then I've also got this one here, which is Glebe project Camtasia version 2. To tell you what the difference is, if you are looking at this is the project. Okay, it's called an Archicad solo project. But this one is, you haven't actually created it yourself. Archicad automatically creates what's called a backup file that will be paired with your solo project file. And that backup file is the file, it's exactly the same as your file, but it has an automatic save function in it. So if your Archicad ever crashes and you're needing to reopen your Archicad project, then my advice is to look at the timestamp on both the Archicad Solo project and also the Archicad backup version, because it may well be that the automatic save is more recent than the manual saves that you may be doing in your project. Okay, the best way is to check the date modified. Okay, so I've clicked the, oh sorry, just ignore what I just did. The date modified is here. So if you look here, the date modified is 1033, the last time that I looked at this project and the last time it was saved before closing. But the backup project, actually the automatic save only went up to 1017. So if my project were to crash, then I would look for the date stamp or the date modified, which was the latest, and open that one, because that would have the most recent changes to my file. Okay, so I'm going to open this file and press open. With the libraries, if you are moving from version to version, so say from version 14 to version 15, it's a good idea when the library manager comes up like this to press this Consolidate Libraries button. This may or may not be available to you, depending on whether you've already consolidated. If I'd previously consolidated this file, then this button would have been pressed previously, so it would not be available to you. To give you a brief overview about the libraries are, and we've discussed it briefly in class already, is where your objects are stored. So library, Archicad library 14 is your standard library when you're using Archicad version 14. When you're in Archicad version 15, the standard library will be Archicad library 15. When you move from version to version, you may need to relink the previous version's library, which is what I'm about to do with the Consolidate Libraries button. If you look over here, there are two other libraries which I have not yet provided to you, which we will do shortly after the holidays. But I will provide those libraries to you, which has additional objects that you can use that are not already available in the Archicad standard library. Okay, I'm going to just hit the Consolidate Libraries button. So you just hit Consolidate and then press OK. So what it's going to do is consolidate Archicad Library 14 and also Archicad Library 15. And if you had were quick enough to notice, just before I pressed OK on that Library Manager window, you may have seen that there was an Archicad Library 14 folder icon and then also an Archicad Library 15 icon. Okay, so if you want, you can just press pause on this video and just rewind slightly so you can see that window. If you get this window which says missing add-ons, just click OK. You are likely to get this on your home computers because you are unlikely to have an additional software program called CAD Image, which is about managing other library parts and other tools, which we will discuss later in this semester. Okay, so just click OK there. All right, skip here. Okay, so what we see now is the standard work environment, which is what you're used to seeing in class. So this is this toolbox that runs along the left-hand side of the screen, the navigator which runs along the right-hand side of the screen, and there's this information box which runs along the top. So the information box, I'll take the opportunity just to talk about it in a little bit more detail now. The information box will change depending on what tool or what element is selected in your toolbox. So if you notice when I click the wall, it comes up with information that is only relevant to the wall. And then if I click, for example, the roof, then again it comes up with information that is only relevant for the roof. All this information is generally also available if you double click the element in the toolbox settings. Okay, so if you notice here, these two icons indicate whether it's a single plane or a multi-plane roof, and those icons are also here. If you want information about what layer it is on, then that information is also here. There is some information that is in the information toolbox that runs along the top here that isn't actually in the default settings. And generally that information is specifically how you draw. Okay, we'll discuss that in a bit more detail a bit later, because it's easiest to show you, say for example, on the wall icon. Okay, so we'll revisit that. But what I'd like to do next is to follow on from tutorial 16, which at the end of tutorial 16, we talked that we would attend to the roof shape of the neighbor on the right, and to build the roof as we see it from information using Google Maps, from information using photos taken from site, and to reconstruct this roof so that we have context for our project.